Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast.
All right, guys, this is Grant for Brutally Delicious. Nervous as hell, quite frankly, because I'm speaking to somebody that is far beyond my expertise to be speaking to. I'm welcoming to the podcast Tracy Bonham. Tracy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Grant. And whatever you just said is not true.
It feels like it because
Okay.
I'm sort of mid 40s. I remember when your first album came out and all of the exposure that you got.
Yeah.
So sitting here with somebody with the musical pedigree that you have, I'm a little bit taken aback by this. Um, I'd like to start, obviously going over the new album that's about to come out, Skies Too Wide. It's been a bit of a long writing process for you since the last album. And when I did your review, obviously I'm reading through the press release and what have you, and it talks about a host of influences and kind of tickling classical pieces. So I guess maybe we'll start there in relation to those tickles and teasers, because I'm still losing sleep off a few bits of this
Really?
album where I'm like, I don't know where I
Oh,
know
right.
that little progression from and that kind of thing.
That made me laugh.
Honestly, I am losing sleep over it. What went into that thought? Was there a conscious effort to do these homages, or was it something that came organically? Or
It definitely came organically. Let's see. I'd started playing more piano, and I think that's how this came to be. I've been having trouble with my neck, so I'm playing less violin. And then the guitar, I don't know, maybe it's just getting old. It sucks. But the guitar, is becoming a little bit more problematic too. So luckily I have another instrument. So I sit down and I kind of reconnected with some of my old pieces. I always do. And I love the piano so much. It is probably my favorite instrument. And so then as COVID, kind of kept me at home, as everyone feels the same way, I started playing more and more piano. And then I think I started writing a couple new songs, but also integrating some of the old pieces that I played or I was inspired by, and would start, putting it into my original tunes. And some of them just seemed to work, like my song Naked. It just seemed to work. I'd been playing it on the piano anyway. And then I was like, oh, I can change the bridge, which is normally this raucous guitar Led Zeppelin bridge, and turn it into this amazing, like Debussy, interlude.
absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I am familiar with your version of Black Dog, with you mentioning
Oh,
Led
yeah, yeah.
Zeppelin, the way that you changed up into the violin from all of the guitar solos was absolutely majestic. Um, you mentioned COVID there a little bit, and obviously we're aware of the fact that you've had quite a tumultuous time in recent years.
Mhm.
In relation to the writing and your writing focus moving forward, I wanted to maybe explore more about how the cancer diagnosis has affected the way that you write. Because art in general, when artists are faced with their own mortality a little bit, you know, focus and perspective changes. What's changed since that in relation to your writing, if anything?
My attitude to so many things has changed. I had already been on a path of trying to be more present in everything, but especially in music and especially in performing. And from that, and then I think that's probably why, um, my marriage wasn't working out. I just couldn't really have the facade anymore. And when I found out I had cancer, now this is only just last year, it just really, it just put things into perspective so much more, where I just need to be myself. If I go through this life and I'm not fully authentically myself, then I'm not doing anybody any favors, especially myself, my son. And I'm really trying to be more radically honest. It's really fucking hard. I hate it, but it's a challenge for me. But it's important to be that way.
Well, you mentioned facade. Would you say that Skies Too Wide is probably the most real album that you've put out? Is it the most kind of honest representation of you as an artist?
I think they're all pretty honest, actually. I mean, even, Burdens of Being Upright, I was it's funny. It felt as though I was going through a phase, so, and I didn't quite really know who I was yet. So, I came from the classical background. I thought I wanted to be a jazz singer at one point or whatever it was. I had all of these influences, but when I locked in on like, the guitar and the bar chord, and I really kind of stripped away all of my training, that was also me then, but it did feel like a phase. And I think I was trying to fit in a certain box. I was very influenced by what was around me, which was great. I had influences like the Pixies and PJ Harvey and all of those things I really love, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But in retrospect, as I look back, I feel like, yeah, I am gradually every record becoming more and more myself.
Absolutely beautiful. Um, you've mentioned previous records there. It's almost like you've read my mind in relation to the way that these questions are progressing, which is a little bit odd because normally I'm a little bit more freeform than this. Previous records, you've worked with some absolute music royalty, be it producers or be it the musicians that you've had backing you. I can't remember the guy's name. But the bass player on this new album,
Oh,
I'm only
Renee
yeah,
Hart.
I
Oh,
was
that's
absolutely blown away by his playing from the moment the first song opened. I'm a bass player myself, and I was just like, wow. Um, where I'm going with this, because I'm tangenting a little bit because I'm nervous.
yeah. Good
Is there
to
anybody out there that you haven't collaborated yet with, or is somebody out there where you kind of think I would love to duet with that person, or I would love to write with that person?
I mean, I just take wherever the wind takes me. So, of course I could give you the stock answer, which just feels weird, but I'll just say it like, oh, I want to collaborate with Stevie Wonder. But I would have said that from age 5 on up to now. But you know, gosh, there's so many amazing people that I have yet to meet. Um, I can't answer it at the moment, like with any specificity. I just feel really lucky to have collaborated with the people that I have. And the more authentic I become musically and everything, it draws certain people to me. And I've had wonderful collaborations with people I would never even dream of singing or playing with. I was in a bluegrass jazz world music outfit called the Wayfaring Strangers one time, and it had all of these world class musicians, banjo players, fiddle players, and I absolutely loved that. So I think being open to all kinds of music and collaborations is really important. But I'll collaborate with comedians. I have a show coming up with my friend Fred Armisen, who's a comedian. I'll collaborate with choreographers. I feel like I'm open to anything. That's kind of a broad answer. I'm sorry I wasn't more specific.
No, no need to apologize. Broad and chaotic is definitely the way most of my stuff goes anyway.
Okay.
The next question that I had lined up might be a little bit more on the spot with that, but I don't know, an impulse answer might be fun. Because what I wanted to ask is if we just had a simple backline setup, drum, guitar, bass, and maybe one vocalist to harmonize with. If I said right now, who would you stick in that backline? What would you think?
I still say Stevie Wonder. Oh God. Paul McCartney. Oh, no offense to Renee, because Renee is my bass player and he's also my love. But if Paul McCartney was sitting around, he'd be there. Who else? Johnny Greenwood. love, love his guitar playing. And what is it? Drummer. I mean, I don't know. Who would you think would be on drums? I'm going to put it to you.
You mentioned jazz singers earlier on, and he'd definitely be my drummer in the backline, Buddy Rich.
Oh wow, great. Okay. Okay, I'll choose Art Blakey.
Right.
Amazing.
All right, awesome. I love that because like we've got a beautifully varied line of
Yes,
musicians there as well.
exactly.
Uh,
Amazing.
yeah, it's always Buddy Rich with drums for me. I guess maybe want to explore a little bit of broader art as well with you because you've said you like like I say, it's almost like you've preempted these a little bit. You're going to go and do stuff with choreographers and do stuff with comedians. Your artistic taste, as far as like your broad scope, seem to be just as varied as your musical influences. Um, the reason I'm asking this is because I'm a big Kurt Vonnegut fan, and I remember something where I could get Kurt Vonnegut's recommendations on art, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. Outside, not necessarily outside of music, but for anybody listening, if you kind of go, this is something you should let yourself experience. What would you say, like an author or, artists or architecture or anything? Would you just go, you need to see that before you die, or you need to hear that before you die, or witness it?
Wow, no, whoa, okay, caught off guard. Sometimes these questions make me really nervous and I go blank. Um, man. I mean, one of my favorite authors is Jonathan Franzen. He's American, but what would you say? Like, you can't leave this world until you. I don't know. Can we come back to that? Can I call a lifeline?
No, absolutely. If you just want to go, that's too much, mate. Then absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I feel I don't know what to say.
no, that's absolutely cool. I think if your tastes are so broad that you can't go, you need to see that, then that is, symptomatic of a good artistic mind, shall we say.
Yeah. I also feel very cautious sometimes about like you got to do this because I said so. Like it's one of those things that I don't generally do, and sometimes I'm like, well, maybe I should. Like, even I'm a mother of a 14-year-old, and sometimes I think I should be saying you need to do this, to make your horizons bigger and stuff. And I don't know. I'm just kind of like let them come to it on their own person.
Absolutely. I'm a parent myself. Mine's 17. So you've
Okay.
still got the next 3 years of pubescent anarchy to deal with as well.
Yes, exactly.
um, Again, I'm on these broader horizons. I'm going to go maybe a little bit into the future as to where musically you're going to go after
Mhm.
this. You've never been one to pigeonhole yourself, as is absolutely clear from where we've been in this conversation so far. Um, is there anything out there from that creative perspective that you really still want to do but haven't yet? Might be sounding a little bit comedic here, but can we expect Tracy Bonham the death metal sessions, or you're thinking, I really want to do a drum and bass album, or something like that?
Oh yeah, I do have a couple like ideas that are just like lurking. At one point, I wanted to make an album, because my voice can, when I belt, I've been kind of a belter, right? I wanted to make an album that was almost like, what would you call it? Like soulful album where I just sing really lightly, like the whole time. I'm just lots of harmonies and maybe a deep groove, maybe, Renee on bass, which would just be all super sexy and groovy. And I would just sing like this with the harmonies. So that's one thing. And then I also, my latest thing though is still the combination of classical and maybe even going a little harder with the rock, because I am angry and I'm finally coming to terms with saying that I'm angry. So I want to make a beautiful angry album, and it has to do with the political everything, and I can't even talk about it, but I was like, what? I don't want to say it because now people are going to steal my idea. um, what composers, I started looking them up, were like dissenters, dissenting from their political climates and stuff like that. And I have a list of them. And I'm like, okay, what if I write some songs? Or maybe this is a weird one. Maybe I resurrect my first album, and I go there with the rock, but I do the same thing like what I did with the song Naked, where there's a moment where it opens up and it turns into some like, righteous peace. Even in my mind, it might not even sound musically like it's, aggressive or anarchistic or whatever, but the storyline of having those the that lineage of composers who are dissenting with the angry rock sound. There's something there that I want to tease out. I'd be really excited to try it, and that might just be my next thing.
I like the sound of that, like classical punk rock.
Yeah, there we go.
Is yeah,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with your back catalogue, the earlier stuff a lot more than the stuff through the mid 2000s, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. But Burdens of Being Upright, anybody that's listening is probably going to go No Mother, and the chorus in that where it kicks, I'm losing my mind, everything's fine. Like you really hear the heart and the punk rock soul behind everything you do. Um, Hold on a moment. Sorry, I'm just having to read a question here. Um, the next question was, do you have a vision yet for what your next release is going to be? Which I think we've already covered a little bit.
Oh.
You mentioned some anger in the political climate and that kind of thing. I'm not going to go diving down an avenue of raw politics or anything like that because it's something that is very personal and what have you. But I would maybe like to address the broader media a little bit. You're a female artist. You've been running since the 90s. And even now, with trailblazers in music and film and art and what have you, there's still a backlash, especially on the online generation in relation to females in the arts. You know what I mean? It's awful, some of the stuff that you get subjected to. What would you say to the guys online that are spouting this vitriol to help them cope with the tiny dicks that are driving all of the anger towards female artists?
Wouldn't it be great if we could just get the message to them like, we see it, like we know what you're doing, you're compensating, you're overcompensating. And obviously, I think it's a fear thing. It's not like they're afraid of women, but I think they're afraid to be vulnerable because there's a lot of power. They don't see it. They probably still have some fucked up way of thinking about it, but there's vulnerability, there's power in vulnerability and openness. And so I think it's more and more obvious, or always has been obvious, that the armor that they put on, the vitriol, the challenges, whatever it is, or the authoritarian kind of like, we hold the power, and we can basically, make people feel lesser than, is it's most obvious that they're so highly insecure. They would never admit it or see it. Probably, as we know in psychology or whatever, it's like you got to hit rock bottom before you even really can come to terms with that beautiful vulnerability. It's their loss. It just sucks that it affects everyone else.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much for that one because we are predominantly a rock and metal podcast. I've got very eclectic taste in music, which is why I come in and I love doing all of the weird and wonderful stuff. But the reason that I wanted to go there a little bit is because rock and metal can be very gatekept, and it's one of those genres that still gets it. Women in metal get a hell of a lot of stick, and it's absolutely unjustified. So
Bad. There's a whole world. Why does it have to be one or the other?
yeah,
Why be gender specific at all? It's just in energy, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. Let's dive right back around to the album to cap this off because you've got the album release coming up in New York. Is it 2 weeks' time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. June 6th is the album release, and then June 10th is the New York release party show.
You've mentioned bizarre collaborations and this very bright and free view on art. Is there anything that people can expect that they might not be expecting in relation to the album release party or anything? Do you have anything really beautiful lined up for it?
Yeah, it's I tend to have too many ideas, I admit. So I'm actually in the process of pulling back because I was going to have like basically a circus trapeze artist or whatever. Not really, but I'm trying to do too much. And unfortunately in New York City, it's hard to get a venue to just give you an entire, like an evening with Tracy Bonham thing. Maybe if I was at a different stature, but so I have like an hour and a half to do all of the things I want to do. So I'm going to simplify now. I'm going to play the album. I'm also going to have my friend and collaborator, comedian Fred Armisen, who He's actually is on his way to England like today or something. But uh we're gonna do some skit comedy probably. He also is a musician. He plays guitar and drums, so I'm sure that's gonna come into play with whatever we do. He may even play on I might do a couple 90s songs. My original idea was to come out as 90s Tracy and open for myself. I am going to do that at some point, but I just don't think that this night in particular is the night. I'll do it when I have more time and freedom. So, but I got string players. I've got my incredible trio that's on the album. And so it's just going to be really a beautiful night of I have to lighten it up a little bit. Like Fred with the comedy, he will lighten it up because this album is not really, it's not one of my funny albums. Maybe there's some still quirky lyrics and left turns, but it's not a light album. It's actually kind of heavy and it makes people cry. So I think I need to have a comedian and come and help, make everybody laugh.
I do like the fact that it is undoubtedly a sad album. I've listened to it on repeat since I was sent it, and I've said there's an underlying darkness in there, but I do love the lighter moments as well. I really want to not hear more. I want to be there when Tracy opens for Tracy because
I'll do it.
because of the age I am, my introduction to you was Burdens of Being Upright. It was the Mother Mother video and Sharks Don't Sleep. Sharks
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
But the latter of which is actually my favorite song by you. Yeah, I want to see that. I really, really do.
I think I should do a double bill where it's like Tracy Bonham. I might even just use my name, Tracy Bonham in support of Tracy Bonham. I think it's a great double bill.
Absolutely wonderful. Tracy, I'm out of questions. So I'd like to close it with one that I generally close my interviews with because I do a little segment for Brutally Delicious, predominantly to do with mental health in the arts. There seems to be an epidemic amongst everybody at the moment, low feeling, dark thoughts, that kind of thing. To anybody listening out there, what would you say to them if they're facing down their demons?
My gosh. You know, that it for me personally, I would say I see you, I feel you, I understand, and that I hope that you can find help. Um, always talk about it. Don't keep it in. And if you can somehow slow your mind down, because it's the mind can be a very powerful tool for good and also for self-sabotage. And just know that if you can somehow start to identify those thoughts, it takes a lot of like mental fortitude, but if you can identify the thoughts that you hear, whether they're negative or whatever, and try to expose them as not yourself. I got a tattoo recently of a snake on my arm, and the snake represents negative self-talk. We all have it, like everybody has it. The snake is that negative self-talk. When I look at it and I'm like, okay, that's the snake talking. And I'm like, thank you, snake, but I don't need you right now. Now, this is kind of like, part of my own therapy through my own life. It wouldn't help someone who's like in real deep trouble, obviously. But I just hope that someone who might feel that way can find help and know that every day is like a new chance. And in particular, I have a song, not to bring it about my music, but the song called The Uncertain Sun is about that. Because I started to relate to it. I thought, oh, this is a song about me. I had dark thoughts during COVID and the divorce that was happening all at the same time. And my son was experiencing some deep mental illness as well. And I didn't know if I could make it through a day, I'd want to disappear, just totally disappear. So the lyrics in there, especially the chorus, is as if I'm singing to myself, like if I could just make it through the day, wake up next and see my smile, I have one more chance to make it right. So it's kind of like a day-to-day message.
Tracy, thank you very much for that. I was maybe not expecting such an open and honest answer, and that's absolutely beautiful. I think that that message of, your story always has one more chapter to be written is very powerful.
I just kind of felt like, oh no, you know, it, I want to be able to help people, but sometimes, it's like a really tall order, and you just want to be able to have some kind of effect on people in a positive way.
I think the fact that you're an artist and you've been putting out beautiful music for, was it close to 30 years now? You'll have helped countless people, and it's wonderful to live in a world with artists like you.
Thank you. That makes me very happy. I did
Um,
say before you sign off, though, don't you have questions about the pieces of music that are driving you crazy and keeping you up at night?
yes, I do.
Want to
Like I
allude-
said, I'm very, very nervous
Yeah, I
sitting
want to
here.
allude to it. I'll go through it all. What do you want? What do you want to know?
Right, so where is it? I'm going back over my thing here.
Okay.
So whether you fall, there's a little piano progression at the beginning of it that I'm really familiar with it. It's just about 5 or 6 notes that chain up together, and I'm like, I know this piece of music. Like,
Yeah. That one is funny because I can't really answer you except that it wasn't any specific thing that I'm ripping off. On other songs, I'm totally ripping things off. So I will have answers. But this is more of like a little motif that reminds me of my favorite things about Chopin,
right.
honestly, or Ravel.
I did think it might be Chopin that was ringing true, because from the press release it said that there was some heavy Chopin influences in some of the other songs.
Oh.
Um, the other one was, sorry, no, Whether You Fall was a vocal progression.
Oh.
Coming into the verse, and I've asked a few people about this, and I think what it probably is, it's not just the pitch and the way that you climb up the scale, but there's something about the vocal intonation that's really, really familiar. But I think it might be a very British thing. Everybody that
Really?
I know that has recognized it is around about my age. So I'm wondering if, I think there's something there that is really close to a song that was released and maybe didn't make it stateside.
I would love to know. I mean, it's possible, how artists can rip things off and not even know it.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
fine with that. Oh, I'd love to know. Love to know what that is.
Um, yeah, I mean, I could go on about
Yeah.
it, but that's what I loved about that album is that a lot of people, you used the term rip off before. Like, I would not say rip off, but there's a lot of people out there that don't wear their influences on their sleeves
Mhm.
particularly hard. And I love the fact that this album, you are just kind of going, there is heavy influence from this, there is heavy influence from that. Outside of Chopin, who would you say was the biggest musical influence on the new album?
Debussy, Chopin, and Ravel.
Yeah.
So like, okay, I'll give you the some of the places where I really just was like blatant. Because again, it's not only because, there's that statute of like 75 years, you're able to, you don't have to worry about copyrights or licensing or whatever. But I'm really proud that I played these pieces, and I grew up with these pieces. So Dear God, Should I Hit Send is a direct. The chorus is absolutely Chopin Nocturne number, I think it's 2, Opus 9.
Yeah.
Complete, like, direct. And that's part of the joke of that song, is that, I don't know, it just seemed to be really funny that I ripped off something that was written in the 1800s, but I'm talking about a tweet or an email or a text that you shouldn't send.
Yeah.
So there's that. The juxtaposition made it funny for me to explore. In Naked, I go into Debussy's Dr. Gradus. I can't pronounce it. Pronosum. It's from the Children's Corner Suite for Debussy. And there is something else. Where am I going?
If I may, because I found the bit from my review now, because I'm terrible at not using paragraphs. So I'm sitting here trying to read through it sentence by sentence. The piano lick that I was on about it is at the beginning of Don't Dick Around with My Heart.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh,
Like,
oh, Fury Release by Beethoven?
is that the piece? Right, that's the one that I've been losing sleep over.
That
Yeah,
one?
that one.
That is that piece. I don't hear it in my piece, but I totally understand why that would come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, but I also rip off, okay, the intro for that song. It's kind of like the separate intro. That is it's just kind of my own interpretation of like Eric Satie, French composer, or another kind of a Debussy-esque melody line with the chords, the tensions.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so much fun. And I'll just say that the players on my album are jazz players. And there's so much conversation about the intersection between jazz and those romantic classical composers because of the harmony and those tensions and like the jazz harmonies, and then the tension and release, like classical, that especially that era totally influenced American jazz. So it's like this whole world is opened up by playing with them.
I love that. It's jazz is when you were talking about that, like the fantasy backline and what have you. I was expecting jazz to very much come forward in my review. I've referenced a lot of the jazz singers, and I feel like the new album. Obviously, you're singing it, and it sounds bloody amazing. But I was listening to a lot of the songs and thinking, I could feel Billie Holiday singing this, or I could feel Ella Fitzgerald singing this, or something like that. There's that. I don't know how to respond. I'm not trying to suggest you're on heroin, but they all had that heroin pain kind of feel to them because of
Ooh,
how terrible their lives were. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
right. You hear the pain through the voice. Right, right, right. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. I nailed it without even having to get high.
Imagine how chaotic it would have sounded if you had. Um, I'm stuck. I think we can probably knock it on the head there, Tracy, unless there's anything you want to add about what you've got coming up. Like, what can we expect in the next 5 years from Tracy Bonham?
Okay, 5 years. Okay, so I'll tour this album and it'll just go like gangbusters. And then I'll be able to tour and I'll come to the UK and which is all like very, very possible, but things are coming together slowly and who knows what's gonna happen when it comes to, crossing of borders and everything. So
Yeah.
won't be there. So definitely another album. I've got the 30th anniversary of Burdens of Being Upright coming out. So I'm actually wondering if I can get my actual masters back from the record label and re-release it. That would be amazing. Or do another like tribute, like re-record album to it. There's always that. I'm also working on music education. I guess it would, music that teaches music. It's probably the most fun I've ever had, because I can be less precious and it can just be fun. And I love music education. I think you can tell that I love music theory so much and I love kids, and I care about the well-being of kids. So I have a bunch of material. In fact, I did release in 2021, I released a kids education, music education album. There's more on the horizon there. I got too many ideas. I mean, I'll join the circus, maybe. I don't know. But 5 years, oh my God, it sounds like tomorrow.
It's so, I was, like I said at the beginning, I was nervous coming into this. One of the things I find most refreshing about you is the chaos that you're harnessing with absolutely everything. I've got too many ideas. I want to do this. I want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm in nowhere the caliber of musician as you, but you remind me very much of myself in that sense.
Oh.
I'm very much like, oh, there's something shiny on the horizon. Let's go and
Shiny.
find it. Yeah.
Exactly. I can do that. And yeah, it's
Um,
good to have grounded people around you who can tell you, no, maybe not.
you mentioned being passionate about kids' causes and what have you. I can't help noticing the Brooklyn Preschool of Science on the
Oh,
beanies.
right.
Yeah, is there something going on there that
Yeah. I started teaching. Okay, so I got off the road and I wanted to start a family. And so in order to make an extra buck, I started teaching music. And then I got a gig being I love this title, music specialist. and I would come into the schools, Brooklyn Preschool of Science, which is it's just a great school because they're kind of science based, and science and music go hand in hand, and education and music. I started teaching, and it was like my laboratory. I started to write these music education songs. And also, giving kids, like, of course they love, the hits, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and Wheels on the Bus or whatever, but we can challenge them. And so I started writing songs about, the science of sound. What is a sound wave? And it became a really catchy number. I started writing songs about major and minor thirds. They get it. They can totally get it. A song that teaches them actually how to play a song on the black keys called All the Blackbirds. It just is so enjoyable. And also the age range in particular is kind of my favorite. I could teach any age range, but before they get into the world where they go to kindergarten and they're like kind of off, and before they hear the word no, you can't, or they get the discouraging teacher or the impatient teacher, if you can instill not only the educational stuff, but the empowerment stuff and the confidence in using their own voice and living in the moment stuff, that's the jam. And I feel I might be doing more for the world by doing that in the classroom. Sometimes I feel that way.
I absolutely love that. And I feel that pride. Recently, my son decided that he wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps a little bit, and he picked up a bass guitar. And the most wonderful feeling of it is I sat there watching him practice, and he's only been playing 6 months. And I was like, I've been playing since I was 15, and there's no chance in hell of me being able to play that. He's sitting there playing 46 and 2 by Tool. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the song, but a lot
I
of
know
Tool.
Tool, but yeah, right.
You know how intricate some of their stuff is. And I was like, I can barely string together Polly by Nirvana, and he's sitting there going, brrr. I was like, yes, that's what I want to see, just freedom of
Great.
expression.
Yeah.
Um,
Great tool.
absolutely. You said something interesting there about music and inspiration through science, because what brought me into doing this stuff was I did a documentary. I was a guest on a documentary that Bruce did about music and religion. And how where I went with it was about ancient cultures and how music was almost seen like a divine thing. Obviously, you're not pushing it from a religious boundary, but do you feel that the teachings that you're doing is very much like here is the absolute divinity of music?
Absolutely. I really respond to like the Sufi philosophy where like all of life is a symphony. And I'm really actually quite spiritual with my music. There's something about it's so hard to put it into words. Maybe you're not supposed to, but like um where inspiration comes from and expression and connection and the present moment, like it's very godly for me. And I love without yeah the actual like organized religion aspect of it, because I think that's all bullshit. But if I can you know relate to children on that level, and they're mostly in the moment, and that's so beautiful. They're probably closer to my idea of God than anyone. That's why it's so fulfilling, is that they feed into that whole beauty of life and the moment and connection and whatever we call it, higher power.
I love it. I love it. I keep almost shutting down the interview and then go, wait, no, there's something else. No, I think I'll let you go. This has been absolutely wonderful, but I don't want to keep you too long. Tracy, thank you so much. This has been enlightening for anybody that's listening. Tracy's album "Skies Too Wide" is out. When did you say it releases on the 4th?
The release is on the 6th.
6th.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
physical items. There's actually CDs. I don't know if anyone uses CDs anymore, but there's also vinyl, which is exciting.
well, I'll be getting the vinyl because I'm a massive vinyl collector. There's a cupboard full of it back here, and it is the most bizarre.
Yeah.
So let's kill it there. Tracy Bonham, thank you very much for joining me today. This has been a wonderful interview. This has been Grant from Brutally Delicious. Night, bye. Thanks for listening, whatever time of day it is.